Afternoon folks, welcome back. Something a little bit different today. We're in the middle of lockdown obviously, can't get out, go fishing, so next best thing is get prepared and get ready for hopefully the start of the season in a month or so's time. Now's your time when it's all wet and mucky outside and we can't get out to do anything, to have a little bit of a clean up, have a little bit of a stock take and just see what's happening with all your gear. We all know a successful day's fishing is built on a good day's preparation. So I'm just going to run you through a few bits I do when I winterise my gear. Most of this is aimed towards, it's good for the boat and the bank angler. Definitely when you're fishing boats more than anything, you're going to get, your tackle's going to get in a lot less of a state. By that I mean mud and muck and grit and grime. You haven't got that to worry about inside a boat. When you're fishing off the bank like I do, you know, a lot of clients take a lot of people out on the bank and do a lot of winter fishing in the bank. You're contending with mud and grass and grit and gravel and concrete blocks and all sorts of stuff that just wears your tackle down. So we'll just have a quick run through and I'll see if I can give you any hints and tips. We're going to run through, do a little bit of show you how I like to clean the lines and then how to clean your reel as well, rods, clothing, etc, etc. So the first thing I like to do when I get through, you know, towards the end of the season or sometime like now when you've got a bit of time on your hands, is to go through the bag and take out all that old leader, all those old flies, actually empty the bag out, get rid of all the muck and the rubbish and the dirt and the grime and then restart and repack. So as you can see from here, I've already done that, but we're just going to run through how I did that. Leaders. Get all my leaders in there, get all the leaders ready, chuck out any old leader, any old hard, you know, almost partly empty spools or anything that doesn't look quite right, and then refill with all the leader I'm going to noose for the next season. Same thing with my mud, my degreasing, chuck the old stuff away, make a new batch up. Probably won't do that actually until we start to think about going fishing again, but I'm hoping when we get to Cheekbro we're going to be straight back out on the dries again, so I'm going to need that back in there. You don't want to be using last year's Fuller's Earth or mud or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be all cracked up and rubbish. Just chuck it, make up a new batch. It's affordable, easy to do. Tools, glasses, all put away, and then reorganise your lines. Get your lines back on the spools again, label them all up, check through the lines. See if there are any leader loops and that need changing on there. You've seen my video previously on how to change the leader loops, and then we can actually clean the lines. Now fly lines don't need a lot of treatment, don't need a lot of cleaning. I know some folks out there will spend a lot of time cleaning their lines and take care of them, and for the money you're spending on a lot of these lines nowadays, yeah, definitely, you know, why not? If you've got the time, it won't do them any harm. But what I generally do is once or twice a season, and it's no more than that, is I'll take the lines out, floating lines and intermediate and sinking lines, and I'll actually give them a wash. So we're going to clean our fly lines, and we do the floating lines and the sinking lines in exactly the same way. Okay, I find it easier to initially to remove the spool from the reel. You want a bowl of nice lukewarm water with a little bit of washing up liquid in it, only a little bit of washing up liquid with it, and you want a bowl of just cold clean water as well. Okay, you're going to strip the line off the reel into your bowl of lukewarm water with a detergent in it, and you're just going to let it sit there for about 5 minutes, just enough time to dislodge the dirt. While you're doing that, drop the spool inside there as well, and leave the spool inside there as well, and that will dislodge any dirt that you find on the spool or inside the spool in here. You don't want any grit or anything caught up on the inside here. After about 5 minutes, give the spool a nice little wipe round with a cloth, with a nice non-abrasive material cloth, a nice soft cloth. You certainly don't want to be doing any of this with scouring pads or anything else. You'll damage the tackle. That goes for the lines, the reels, the rods, the lot. Stay clear of all that sort of thing, any abrasives. Once that line's been in there, pop it back on the reel. I like to mount the reel on an old rug butt, it just makes things easier, and then gently wind that line back up again, running the line through your hand with the cloth in it, with the cloth soaked in the detergent, in the washing up liquid, and that'll just clean everything off as it goes through. Once that's done, you're going to move on to the bowl of cold water and just strip all the line off into the bowl of cold water, fresh water. Let it sit there for a few seconds, and then you're going to wind this back on the reel again. All you want to do is to wash off any excess detergent that might be left on there. We're not using a heavy mix of detergent, you don't need to. When you're winding that back on for all of your lines, your floater, your intermediate lines and your sinking lines, this is going to be the last time you touch them, okay? So just wind them back on. They're going to be on the spool now for another month at best. You know, you're probably looking at longer than that possibly before you use a lot of these lines. So don't wind them on too tightly, nice and loosely when they go back on the spool, okay? And this should help to stop any memory creeping into the line. We are all going to have memory in our lines when we go back out after lockdown. It's inevitable. I mean, we haven't used the fly lines for 2 to 3 months. These are plastic coated lines, and it doesn't matter what brand of line you've got, you're going to have some sort of memory in this. It's not down to the manufacturer. A lot of this is just down to the fact that you're not using the line often enough. I'll do another little video to explain line memory and line twist and how to get rid of those two phenomena in fly lines. But by spooling this up nice and loosely, you're going to make life easier for yourself when you come to use it. So with your sinking lines, that's it. Just put them aside, let them dry out, give them 4 or 5 hours sitting on the side somewhere, just let them dry out, and then you can put everything back together again. With the floating line, the one extra thing I like to do with this is once you've dried the line out and it's gone through that process and it's nice and clean, I'll give it a little treatment with this stuff, and this is just mucilin. Okay, this is just box standard mucilin. The logo's gone there, but it's green mucilin. You'll find it anywhere. And I'm just going to take that, and what I will do is again strip the line off when it's dry, and I'm just going to run the line back through. There's a little pad inside this with a little drop of this mucilin, this floatant on it, and it's also a great treatment, a great conditioner for any floating fly line. It's very cheap, a lot cheaper than a lot of the stuff that's out there. Wind it back through again, and that'll be your floating line taken care of. Okay, you won't have to do anything else to that. When you're doing this with your lines, taking the time to clean your lines and clean your spools, just take the time to inspect the braided loops or the welded loops at the end of the fly line there. It's a good time to replace any that don't look quite right. They're inexpensive and easy to do. And also look for any nicks or any marks or anything like that that might be on the line, any sign of cracking. And certainly if you're like me and you've been fishing places like Walthamstow and other reservoirs from the bank, Graffham, off the gravels and the rocks, check your lines, check your running lines for any nicks or any damage that's been caused by the tough and abrasive substrate that you've been fishing over. If you do find some, you can look into repairing them. There's a few ways to repair fly lines, or it's something just to be aware of. If they're too bad, then now's the time to look to getting a replacement, because there's plenty of cheap deals out there, and you don't want to be getting down to the fishing when we're all running back after lockdown and casting out and your line goes one way, your rod goes the other way, just parts company. And you certainly don't want to be snapping on that one of those big grown-on fish that we're likely to come across when we get back. And that's your basic line care, really. It's very, very straightforward, very, very easy and very inexpensive. And it's something to do once or twice a year. You can do it more often. I think the less you use the tackle, the more you need to do this. When I'm fishing on a day-to-day trip fishing, especially with these floating lines or anything that's picking up from fishing in a muddy area, the last thing I'll do on a day is chuck the line out, do a real long cast, chuck as much line out as I possibly can, submerge the whole rod and the reel in the water if you can get down to it, and you can in most places, and then reel everything back through in the water with the reel actually submerged. It'll just help to knock any grit or any rubbish or any muck off your line as you're coming back through again. But do that on your lines and you shouldn't have any trouble when it come out to the start of the new season, and it's also going to give you a bit more longevity. Look after your tackle, look after your floating lines. Right, once we've taken care of the line, then we've got to take care of the reels themselves as well. The materials that most of these reels are made out of nowadays for freshwater fishing, you haven't got to worry about rust. which is great. That's one thing. And corrosion, you haven't got to worry about. Saltwater gear is a little bit different. If you're saltwater fly fishing, you've really got to look after these. But the main areas you're going to get problems with these reels after a bit of use off the banks, as you can see on these reels, we'll do a little close-up of these in a minute, is in here. And you've got mud. They're absolutely covered in mud. You're going to get grit inside there. I can feel grit just inside the edge of the spool, and it's just clicking as it goes round. So we're going to take care. We're going to have a little look at the reel and do some very, very basic maintenance again on the reel, just to make things easier when we start up again. There isn't a lot to do to reels and what have you. They're pretty simple pieces of kit, these are. And again, with your bowl of lukewarm water, you're just going to take that, take the reel apart. So you've got the two sides. Pop it into that bowl of water, and then you're going to use a scrubbing brush, or easier still, a toothbrush or something like that, and just give it all the little nooks and crannies and all the little bits in the edge. Just get in there, work in there, plenty of washing up liquid on it, and just give it all a nice wash down. Give that little drag a little bit of a turn and a twist as well when you're in there, just to dislodge any little bits of grit and dirt. It really is the grit you want to get out of this, and the mud. And again, take it out into your cold clean water, quick rinse inside there, won't take long, and put it on the side and let it dry. Once the reel's dried, you really don't have to do too much more to it. There's two things I like to do to these reels. One is just to give them a little squirt of WD-40 inside the mechanism, and I do mean just a little squirt of WD-40 just to get in, push any water, stop any water from sitting in there, and also just in case there is any more grit or grime in there, gets rid of that. And also what I'll do is I'm going to run round the outside of the spool, the interchangeable part of the spool. If you look in there, there's an O-ring on there, and all I'm going to do is take a little bit of grease, just plain nice fine mechanics grease, and on my finger, and I'm just going to run that round the inside of there, and that's just going to help with the changing of the spools, the interchanging of the spools. Other than that, there really isn't much to do with reels nowadays. When you come back to storing them again, if you're going to be a few months, store them without any lines on them, store them without any spools on them. You know, if you leave spools on your reels, especially with these cartridge system spools, you could have trouble with the spool actually seizing up on the reel. So best to leave them off, and then you won't have that problem. Nice and simple, nice and straightforward, and really is a very, very quick job. And again, will just make the life of your reel, just extend the life of your reel. You're spending good money on this tackle, take care of it. Okay, again, more aimed towards the bank angler, but it won't do any harm to do this if you're boat fishing as well. A little bit of maintenance on your rods. Again, they're pretty robust pieces of kit, so they don't take a lot of cleaning, but what you're going to notice, and you're certainly going to notice from a rod like this, is a build up of again, grime and mud, and it's normally around the eyes here. Okay, and this is the bit, take care of your rod, and this is the bit you want to be cleaning. Also the actual rod handle itself down here, down on the seat here, this is another spot here that's going to gather any dirt and muck and whatever, especially if you've been using these off the bank a lot like I have. Same thing again, just a bowl of lightly soapy water, into the bowl, scrubbing brush, nothing abrasive again, just a nice light scrubbing brush and a soft cloth. Give the cork a nice bit of a rub, give the reel seat a nice rub, really get into that, try and knock all that dirt off. The actual rod itself, the rod blanket itself, just a soft cloth all the way through with washing up liquid. These eyes, I like to attack these with a toothbrush. Is the easiest thing to use. Is just go up and just get in the toothbrush and give that a nice little going up there. As you get further and further and further up the eyes, depending on the level of dirt and further up the eyes here, you can use something nice and small like a cotton bud or something like that, just to get in there, just to dislodge all that dirt. But generally you find the muckier part of this rod is this bit down here, near down to the rod handle, that's been the bit that's put down on the bank and lifted up and picked up and put down, etc, etc, etc. Don't use any abrasives on this kit, and even something like WD-40. I did that myself one season. I remember I had a couple of old Grays rods, a couple of Platinum XDs, and I thought I'd give them a nice clean. And of course WD-40 is great for cleaning. Excuse me. and I gave the rods all a nice rub down with WD-40, and they looked immaculate, looked lovely. And then they dried out, and then I saw the damage I'd actually done to the finish of the rods. Rods were still all usable, they just looked absolutely terrible. So just, again, warm, soapy water. Rod bags, while you're taking this out, so when you're taking your rod outside and you clean it all off, chuck the rod bags in as well. They've all got dirt on them, they've all got mud on them. Take the opportunity to give it a clean, chuck them all in the washing up, in with the clothes wash. Do the whole lot at once if you want to. Try not to mix up your blanks over. You've got a few rods of the same things. Try not to mix everything up, obviously, when you put everything back together again. And that really is it. There's no after treatment at all for fishing rods once they're washed off. That's it, job done. Right, clothing is the next part to do, waterproofs, etc, etc. This is the time now to be thinking about cleaning and washing your waterproofs, getting all that muck and grub and grime from the winter fishing off of them, and retreating them as well. Waterproofs are going to fall into two different categories, your waterproofs and your Gore-Tex. Okay, you can buy the treatments for these online. You've got Nicky Wax here, you've got the Granger stuff there, and you've got plenty of other products out there as well. One is for Gore-Tex and the other is just for plain standard waterproof, so make sure you work out, and if your waterproofs are Gore-Tex, they will say inside. It's just a case of in a clean washing machine, chucking the recommended measure of this stuff into your wash, just doing your waterproofs. Take them out. You normally have to activate them afterwards by either putting them through the tumble dryer on a light setting or underneath a very cool iron, and that'll just activate those and re-waterproof them, and you won't have any issues. It's something that you should do as standard anyhow once a year with your waterproofs. You do need to take care of waterproofs because they do eventually start to let in a bit of water, especially around the zips and places like that. So just take your time and work out which one of these you need. Another easy job, doesn't take long at all. Another job after that, and probably one of the last ones you're going to need to do, is your flies. Sort through all your fly boxes, go through the fly boxes, see what's in and what's what and what's in there. Have a little look. It's quite a nice job, this one, to take an inventory of what you've got in your fly boxes, to go through, see if there are any spaces, anything needs refilling. If you tie your own flies like me, you could just make a little list of, I need half a dozen of those, half a dozen of those, and fill in all those little gaps. And it's also a time where you can reorganise your fly boxes, and it's a job that a lot of fly fishermen really quite enjoy doing actually. You sit down, empty the fly boxes out, recategorise everything, the flies that you maybe haven't used over the last season or two, or patterns that you favour more than others. You can reorganise your boxes so that you can get to those patterns more easy, and it is enjoyable to do. And also it gives you a chance to check your hooks, and because you do, some of these flies creep back into the boxes, we get muddled up. You get barbless hooks in barb boxes and barbed hooks in barbless boxes, and save causing any hassles or any embarrassments or anything like that. Now's the time to be doing all of this. And that's pretty much it for getting yourself going for the next season. You can wash your bags, reorganise your boat boxes as well if you want to. Things like the G-clamps, etc., they're going to need a bit of a clean down, give them a spray down, a little bit of WD-40 on them, and then just start planning your trips for when we can get out again, hopefully in the not too distant future. We'll all be back out there, and I'll be able to get it back out and do a few more videos on fishing for you. I really want to be doing some more, but I'm just the same as you folks out there. It's lockdown, and we've got to do our bit until this nasty virus goes away, or at least gets under control. But until then, tinker with your tackle, have a little play around, get everything organised, and you can guarantee that first day when we get back out again, it's going to go smoothly. You're not going to have any problems, and you're not going to have any surprises if you've done this bit properly. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you find this informative. I'm going to also, what I'll do is I'll also split this up into a couple of bits as well. So I'll just do the reel cleaning, and I'll just do the line cleaning as well on a separate videos, and I'll pop them out there. So if you just want to watch those 2 bits, or if you want to recommend them to someone to watch those couple of bits, then you can just, you don't have to watch this whole video and listen to me bumbling away. But thanks people, you know, take care of yourselves. Please, if you like this, I try and get out, try and put videos out and the time videos out about twice a week. So click like, click subscribe. This gives me something to do. Hopefully it gives you something to watch. Thanks very much, and yeah, stay safe.